Major recently admitted to using Jim Jones as a pawn while messing around with Cam behind the scenes for years. And the worst thing is that Cam intentionally videotaped it. This isn't love and hip-hop drama. This is trial-level betrayal with studio. Receipts, burner phones, and a voice memo that could wreck an entire legacy. Jim Jones did not shout or cry. Instead, he sat there listening as if he had just witnessed his entire relationship, brand, and name being lit on fire. He couldn't do anything about it. So the issue is, was this all a setup from the beginning? Did Camron play the long game? And was Chrissy ever really loyal or simply a well-dressed time bomb waiting to go viral strap-up? Because what you're about to hear could be the end of everything they built you. What's worse than a breakup? A public betrayal, which is exactly what happened between Chrissy Lampin, Camron, and Jim Jones in a scandal that has not only rocked Dipset to its core, but now has the internet wondering one thing. Was everything a lie? It began like any other chaotic internet. Rumor, a few whispers, a shady DM leak, and then bam, an audio file surfaces. Not just any audio, but private time-stamped and unedited footage of Chrissy Lampin supposedly telling Camron, not Jim, how she never stopped thinking about him. But the real kicker is that she does it while sipping wine, laughing, and referring to Jim as a brand, not a guy. Well, that statement alone melted down 3 group chats and transformed Twitter into a funeral. But let's back up for a second, because this audio, according to people close to Cam's team, the leak was purposeful. It wasn't a slip or a revenge leak from a bitter friend. This was a deliberate, cold-blooded release by Camron himself, because evidently Cam's done playing nice. You notice the animosity between Camron and Jim Jones has been seething under the surface for over a decade. Once the core of Dipset, their fraternity was coveted by the culture. But behind the scenes, business friction, artistic disagreements, and yes, women built a tremendous gulf between them. Years both parties kept things cool till now. Music. So let's talk about the music itself. According to people who have heard the whole version, this was not merely the 40-second viral clip, captured in a secluded studio apartment where Cam and Chrissy supposedly joined up 2 months ago. Chrissy's voice is plain as day. No distortion, no edits. She says, "Jim still thinks I'm in love with the idea of us, but he doesn't know I've been gone for a long time. I'm with him in interviews, but Cam says nothing, but you can hear the sound of a lighter flick followed by a beat." She chuckles, drops in the background. Like, this ain't just a scandal. This is a soundtrack to sabotage. Let's not pretend Chrissy has been squeaky. Clean fans have had suspicions since the Moran hotel footage leaked last year. Remember that grainy clip of her entering a luxury suite at 2:14 a.m. with Reggie, who was suspiciously wearing a hoodie similar to Cam's at the moment? Chrissy said it was her cousin Cam. Jim denied everything and did not even answer. But now the audio makes one thing clear. Cam was present. Reggie was a ghost, and the deception was layered. Wasn't that enough? Let's look at what else was in the leak. At one point in the recording, Cam asks her, "Do you ever feel guilty?" And Chrissy responds without missing a beat, "Not anymore. I've given him everything for 10 years and now I'm doing myself." The doing me evidently entailed slipping behind Jim's back with the one man he trusted the most. And here's the thing. This wasn't just about sex. According to former VH1 colleagues, Chrissy had been moaning for years about feeling hemmed in by Jim's image. Chrissy wanted to reinvent herself. She didn't want to be the supporting fiancé longer. She wanted to be the main act rather than the co-star. And guess who gave Cam head? Been checking on Chrissy for months, according to sources. Private planes, burner phones were hidden. Conversations, one insider said Cam didn't simply pull her. He controlled her like a CEO flipping a competitor company from the inside. This leads us to Jim Dodge. Jones found out on a live stream. He wasn't warned, he wasn't given a courtesy call. He was mid-interview talking about his new album, and his aide handed him a phone and whispered something in his ear. Jim froze, glanced down, played the audio once, then again, and simply shut down. He didn't flip. Audible did not storm out. He just stared at the TV and said, "That's her." At that moment, Dipset fans around the globe realized this wasn't just celebrity drama. This was a meltdown of allegiance, heritage, and love all in real time, and it didn't stop there. Moments later, Mama Jones, Jim's own mother, took to Facebook Live. her face puffy, her tone furious, her message, I warned him, I told my son she wasn't right, but he wanted his fairy narrative now. Fairy tales are burning because the internet did what the internet does, it delved. Deeper Reddit threads popped up comparing. The one person provided a tape from a 2018 Breakfast Club interview in which Chrissy says, "Cam is like family, there's nothing like that between us." Well, sweetie, the receipts say otherwise, which makes it even more shocking that this could have been. With a brand breakdown, but also a brand transfer, some believe Chrissy and Cam were covertly crafting their own spin-off. Consider taping discussions, compiling clips, and collecting drama in real time to offer to streaming platforms. The other side of love and hip-hop, raw, scandalous, and fully unscripted, sound far-fetched. But when you find out that Cam's lawyer just lodged a request to safeguard intellectual property related with recorded material from July to October. Yeah, he's treating this leak as, here's where it gets nasty. The leaked audio wasn't even the only tape. Sources suggest 2 more recordings exist, one from a backstage VH1 filming, where Chrissy is supposedly overheard asking Mona Scott, "Can we cut that line about Jim?" It is not factual. Anymore, I'm just playing the role. The second, a voicemail from Chrissy to Cam where she supposedly states, "I miss the old days when it was just us. Jim's too busy seeking clout, you still see me." That final line is now a meme, and "you still see me" has become the hashtag war cry of the week it's on. Shirts, TikTok lip syncs, even spiteful comments from strange reality stars. And that's where we pause, because just as the world started reacting to, Camron broke his quiet and uploaded a single sentence on Instagram with no caption, simply white text. On a black screen you shouldn't have played. Both sides post 4.4 million likes in 9 hours with no hashtags or follow-ups. Simply a digital mic drop. But what Cam didn't see it coming when an unidentified burner account linked to a former VH1 intern shared a Dropbox folder and images of the files inside. Travel receipts, even a picture of Chrissy and Cam boarding a private jet to Turks and Caicos during the same week. Jim was hospitalized for exhaustion. Yeah, that just happened. And the flame got ignited again. Because if you thought the audio leak was the climax, or the IG Live was their percussions, nah, that was only the dress rehearsal. What happened next wasn't just scandalous, it was also catastrophic to the brand, the bond, and to every falsehood they hoped would stay buried forever. The courtroom was packed, and Jim Jones went in wearing all black with no chains. Smile, no entourage, just his lawyer and his mother behind him. Mama Jones covered in a church coat and gripping Kleenex like a weapon. Chrissy came in 15 minutes, later alone, hair slicked back, jaw stiff, dressed as if she was going to a funeral she created, which she might have been. But the tension struck a whole new level when Camron entered, calm, cool, caramel leather trench coat, sunglasses, indoors. 2 steps behind him was his lawyer clutching another document, labeled simply Exhibit C. The judge didn't waste time first addressing the public damage caused by the now viral recordings. Jim's lawyer stood up and asked a gag order on all parties, citing emotional abuse, brand exploitation, and planned slander. Then he presented the judge a printed contract, which was a true signed agreement between Jim and Chrissy. 4. The production of a co-branded documentary series, Love Always Wins, includes stipulations about emotional integrity, brand protection, and exclusive, the type of paperwork that stated, "You don't just break hearts, you breach contracts." And the judge read it carefully page by page, then looked directly at Chrissy. "Were you romantically connected with Mr. Giles, Mr. Camron, during the planning of this series?" Chrissy didn't blink. Sigh. She just nodded once. Yep. That single phrase exploded the courtroom. Mom Jones. Jim stared down, hand clutched on the table, knuckles, white lips shaking, and gasped loudly, as if a soul had left his body. The judge continued, Are you aware that revealing this association could harm the credibility of your co-branded content?" Another nod. "Yes." The judge did not respond, but someone in the gallery did, whispering something from a solo cup, and laughed. "If it leaks, it leaks. I've been hiding for a decade. Let the fire come back in the courtroom." The screen went dark. Nobody moved. Not even the judge, until he finally said, "Miss Lamine, is this footage authentic?" "Chrissy?" "Yes, do you understand this compromises your claims of good?" I have faith in your combined business projects, Chrissy. The gavel did not drop, but the damage did because the footage was recorded by Jim's crew, officially filed a countersuit, claiming emotional fraud, intentional misrepresentation, and brand manipulation. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was financial as well. Federal. But just when things couldn't feel any heavier, a court clerk stepped in to whisper something in the judge's ear. He nodded and delivered the words that turned the scandal into a possible criminal probe. This court has received documentation from Homeland Security. Ms. Lampkin is now a person of interest in an ongoing case involving computer manipulation and charitable misappropriation related to Mona Scott's assistant, who was sitting quietly. In the back, dropped a folder on the floor. The lawyer quickly jumped up and said, "Your Honor, we object that this is outside the jurisdiction of this case." The court shut it down, but the objection was noted. Chrissy's lawyer appeared as if someone had taken the battery out of his spine, and Chrissy finally looked shaken. Her eyes sank to the table, her hands began to tremble, her speech went dead, and Cam watched everything like a man. At the movie premiere, he directed himself, and Jim rose up, not loud or angry, but slowly and deliberately proceeded to the center of the courtroom. When turned to Chrissy, the court permitted it, and Jim just asked, "Was any of it for me, or was I just the cover story?" Chrissy didn't respond because she couldn't. The silence that followed was louder than the leak, louder than the tape, louder than Cam's smirks and Mona's denials. The quiet of a man realizing the love of his life was simply loyal to the plot. The judge granted a short recess, but the press was already on fire before Jim even made it out the courtroom door. TMZ, Shade Room, and every untidy YouTuber in existence were already splicing the film into clips, and the hashtag Sprang Chrissy reveals. Cam was the plan tossed. Jim deserved higher VH1 exposure. Homeland Cam files, and then came the ultimate blow when court was on break. Camron's team released a teaser trailer on Twitter, one clip 30 seconds, long in a hotel room wearing a Dipset hoodie chatting on the phone. "Jim's on tour and I've got 2 hours, you coming or not?" Voice on the other end already. As screen switches to black text fades in the film they attempted to bury, coming shortly back. In court, the energy was. Even though the judge appeared exhausted, he continued hearings, asked both legal teams for closing remarks, and adjourned until final motions could be reviewed next week. But honestly, the verdict had already dropped in public opinion, in the press, in Jim's face, and Chrissy swore in every confession that, never surfacing by the time Jim left the courthouse, his staff had already erased any photographs of Chrissy from his social network, Mom Jones. Declined to speak to the press, but was observed weeping silently in the corridor. Chrissy departed by a back exit with no comments, just an oversized black sweatshirt. Cam remained in the courtroom, wearing sunglasses and quietly realizing that her reality had become a broadcast cautionary tale. Cam was in the lobby, talking to his lawyer and sipping coffee with a grin on his face. When a journalist asked him, "Why now?" He grinned and remarked, "I waited for the right ending." Then he went out with the credits rolling behind him. A few hours later, one last leak hit the internet. A text thread from a burner phone sent from Chrissy to a contact saved as MSY Mona Scott Young. Delete everything. He knows it's over, but nothing was deleted. Everything was archived, and everything now belongs to the world. Love Tale dead, the brand smashed, the truth playing on loop forever. 30 minutes later, everyone was back in their seats. But this time, the enthusiasm, no one glanced at Chrissy, neither the judge, the court reporters, or even her own lawyer. She sat there alone, as if the air around her had shrunk. Guilt had finally dug its claws into the moment Jim Jones was seated, arms folded, no expression on his face, neither fury nor sadness, simply a man who didn't need to say any more because the truth had already screamed on his behalf. And then, as if the devil was on lunch break, he passed the case to assistant. The clerk went in again, this time carrying a flash disk secured in an evidence bag labeled HSI Homeland Security Investigations. The judge opened it like it was burning through his gloves, connected it into the courtroom system, turned to face the room and said, "This contains sealed surveillance audio and metadata files addressing Ms. Lampkin, Ms. Scott Young, and the management of charitable contributions related to a VH1 affiliated, nonprofit registered in 2021. Everyone remained still. Chrissy's attorney immediately objected. "Your Honor, this is unconnected to the current subject," but the judge shut it down again. "We are not discussing innocence. We are discussing admissibility, and it is admissible." The first file played was Chrissy's voice again in a phone call, and the surrounding sounds matched a trailer presumably shot backstage at a VH1 event. I urged Mona to reroute it. Money Jim didn't need to know we exploited his name to promote the event, and the remainder went to handle post-production. Another voice responded. "Female worried Chrissy, that's fraud." Chrissy responded simply, "That's television." The clip stopped. The courtroom didn't move, because now this wasn't just betrayal of the heart. It was possibly federal wire fraud. Jim's name, likeness, and reputation were utilized in charity materials. Siphon monies back into illegitimate production expenditures. Jim's lawyer stood up again. "Your Honor, we request immediate clearance to put these findings into our existing motion for brand defamation and emotional sabotage." The court nodded, motion allowed, and VH1's legal representative stood pale, clearly sweating, whispered something to an aide before turning to the judge and asking if they might address the court in chambers. The judge denied it because it was public now, was viral. This was too enormous to be contained inside oak doors. The VH1 lawyer claimed, "We were uninformed of the financial routing. We had no idea." The judge inquired about the secondary production logs or unsanctioned film, and Ms. Scott Young, the representative, hesitated. Mona Scott Young had gone silent with no emails, public pronouncements, or even a cryptic Instagram quote, so she was unavailable for comment. She knew the big wave was coming and was nearly halfway to the bunker, but back in court, the tsunami had hit, and Chrissy finally spoke out, not to defend, not to deny anything, but to confess. She stood up alone. "I messed up," she murmured gently, not to the judge, not to Jim, but to no one in particular. "I kept telling myself that I could juggle the image and display my true feelings. I thought I could love him in public and heal in private, but I lost both versions." Jim didn't look at her once she started. Cam was real, as was Jim. I just stopped being real with any of them, and it evolved into a machine to show anything I couldn't get out of the judge permitted her to continue, possibly out of curiosity, or because this was the final page of a screenplay. One wanted to write Chrissy closed with, "I don't want forgiveness from Jim, the fans, or anyone, but I want the truth on record because I am tired of." She sat down, and there was silence for nearly a full minute before the judge, particularly given the gravity of the evidence, opposing commercial interests, and the possibility of ongoing reputational harm to public bodies. This court will allow all petitions for damages awaiting a final hearing. Additionally, this court has referred the non-profit case to federal authorities. For further investigation, it was not formally over, but emotionally, Camron had already departed. He didn't wait for the final decision. He put one more thing to his narrative, a single statement. She just shouted it louder than I ever could beneath a clip from Dipset's "I Really Mean It" played. Chrissy left around the back again. No security, no entourage, no Mona. Jim stepped out last. His team tried to draw him closer. "Press exit." He shook them off, walked through the main entrance into the crowd, cameras blazing, reporters screaming. But he didn't utter a word, and got into his SUV, closed the door, and drove off around sundown. The internet was on fire again. A leaked staff chat from VH1 hit Reddit, and someone inside production posted screenshots of Mona's last internal letter before the controversy hit the courts. Read, "If that footage leaks, we're finished." Jim doesn't know half of what was Chrissy didn't lie on TV. She rehearsed VH1 is poised to be the next Fire Festival. And another drop, a video leaked anonymously, showed a deleted clip from the Netflix trailer. Jim and Chrissy is working on something. And he asks her, "Are you ready to establish a life with me or a season?" She chuckles and adds, "Why not?" "Both." But now there's no season, no life, no future. Netflix pulled out sponsors, backed away from production, and halted the series. Within 24 hours, Mona's name was removed off the internet. VH1's press contact went silent, and any intern who had ever held a camera near Chrissy Lampkin began deleting their LinkedIn by morning. and Dipset's official Instagram account unfollowed Chrissy. Jim's bio stated, "Rebuilding. Don't ask me anything," Chrissy posted. Only one item, a black square with no description or explanation, and hundreds of people flooding in the comment section. Was it worth it? Smashed the last loyal one. Cam sold a narrative, you sold your soul. But the final nail came from Cam when he revealed the complete release of the footage they attempted to bury. A 3-part series launching next Friday, and the trailer doesn't even open with Chrissy, but with Jim in a moment that never broadcast, sitting alone on a rooftop with a glass saying, "I've spent my entire life trying to protect people who only needed a stage." Then stillness followed by a fade to black and the concluding words, "The real narrative was never about love, was about loyalty and who killed. It happened first." The globe watched awestruck and addicted, and now there is nothing left to defend. Not the brand, not the image, not even the Jim. Chrissy has just 3 names in the past. Cam's legacy will never recover. Because the footage is out, it's never going away. So now it's all out in the open. The footage, confessions, the courtroom collapsed. We had to ask what was genuine. Was it the love story we all rooted for faithfulness Dipset claimed to be built on? But was it? Everything is a meticulously edited illusion sown. Secrets fuel the collaboration of producers and marketed to us as eternity. Jim Jones didn't simply lose a partner. He lost his legacy. Chrissy walked into that courthouse and ripped it apart, one quote, one voicemail, one quiet at a time. Camron, he didn't simply leak a tape. He set fire to the entire equipment and then walked away, with the only thing that mattered, truth. But now it's your turn. Do you think Chrissy ever loved Jim, or was she's only exploiting him to boost her brand? Was Cam her salvation or her strategy? Drop your theories in the comments. Don't hold back if you're still with us. Still in disbelief, hit the like button to keep the story alive. And if you desire every leaked video, every courtroom twist, every secret betrayal before the internet buries it, hit subscribe and ring that bell, because this saga is far from over, and the next leak could simply rewrite what you thought I knew what.